My paranormal experiences happened in France. My earliest memory is when I was 5 years old. It came back to me a few months ago while I was listening to someone speak. I was seeing things at this time, but I don't remember what. At school, every time I said, I see this or that, but the teacher answered me, stop, Evelyn. That does not exist. How many times I have heard that? I remember thinking, Evelyn, you must not say you see that. It's frustrating today because I can't remember today what I saw exactly at that time. I remember I was afraid of the teacher because she didn't believe me, and I ended up believing that I was talking nonsense. I learned much later that children have the ability to see things that we adults, we cannot. That faculty would disappear at the age of 7. I don't know if it's true, but I believe it. I know now animals also can see things we don't see. I quickly realized that with my little dog, Leo, I often see him motionless. He beats his tail, his head up, as if he is looking at someone. Sometimes I feel him very anxious, going around in circles in the kitchen, especially. He jumps at me with the look of saying, I don't want to stay here. He also sometimes stays on the doorstep of the door that opens onto the green. It's not my imagination. You will understand why later. But my real first experience, I was 15. I was a boarder in a high school. I used coming back home by train every Saturday. My parents lived in a small village. That day, after getting off the train with other passengers, I waited, as usual, for the station master sign. That end sign was a signal that we could cross the tracks. Did we misunderstand his sign? I will never know. With 2 other people, I started crossing the railway tracks. We were in the middle of the track when suddenly we heard a noise. The 2 passengers next to me jumped onto the platform, but I turned toward the noise. A two-board train was coming into the station at full speed. It was clear that there was no planned stop at this station. I was facing it, paralyzed. I didn't know if I should move forward or backward. I remember a great silence. Time slowed down. 2, maybe 3 seconds have passed. I don't know. It seemed to be an eternity. Something happened, then I will never forget. I saw the train driver's face, his eyes enlarged, his mouth open, as if he were a meter away from me. How could I see him? It was technically impossible. The locomotive cab was very high relative to the ground, and more importantly, the windows were tinted. From the outside, we couldn't see the driver. There was something else. A thought crossed my mind. Consciousness is not in the brain. What a strange idea at this moment. Then I felt my arm caught and I was pulled toward the dock. I was stunned, but I could hear all the noises around me again. People were looking at me. No one said anything. I guess they were in shock. Finally, but with difficulty, I asked who I should thank for saving my life. They all looked at each other. I was told, no one, since you jumped on the dock. I repeated over and over, that it was impossible, that I felt a hand grab my arm and pull away. The answer remained the same. Nobody. Wow. All danger was removed at this moment. And at this moment only, I feel fear. I was in a strange atmosphere. No one came to pick me up at the station. So I walked home, and when I arrived, I did not talk about the incident. I just asked my mother if it was true that consciousness is not in the brain. And my mother looked at me very surprised. You have funny ideas or strange ideas. Of course, consciousness is in the brain. I didn't listen to what she said afterwards. I went to my room. Where did that thought come from? In 1975, there was no talk about spirituality around me. My parents were atheists. My brothers and I were the only children who didn't go to church. And I had catechism classes very late, which gave me the opportunity to ask the pastor the same question. I don't remember what is. I just know I was not satisfied. But I got the first answer because that year, in 1975, Dr. Raymond Moody released his book, Life After Life, Near-Death Experiences. Finally, to end the story, I had a surprise. 1 week after this event, I met the driver of the train on the dock. We immediately recognized each other. And what is strange too, he told me he saw clearly my face as I was in front of him. Is it because of the shock of the fear? There is another question. How is it possible? Because the duration of the scene was probably about 2, 3, 4, or maybe 5 seconds. It's very short. It is enough to recognize someone you saw with such a short time. In 2011, I left my small town of Orno for 2 years mission to the Creusot. The Creusot is a slightly larger town located very close to the Morvan in France. The Morvan is also a mysterious region considered a sacred place by the Druids a long time ago. The first time I entered Morvan Park, I immediately felt like I was out of time. Here calm reigns supreme. Here there are different religious buildings such as Catholic church or an Orthodox church and even a Buddhist temple. The region is dotted with strange rocks. Within the Morvan, there is also a very special place, Mount Beuvray. François Mitterrand, French president, would have liked to be buried there. Here, the vegetation is completely twisted. The trees are crooked. They have strange shapes. There are strong telluric currents. It's really a strange place. And also, I think some places are conducive to strange experiences. And during my stay at Le Creusot, I experienced several incidents. Here is one. I woke up in the middle of the night. I was terribly thirsty. So I got up, a little groggy. I didn't turn on the light. The moon lit up part of my room. Its light extended into the corridor. As soon as I got up, I realized right away that something was wrong. I took a few steps toward the kitchen and stopped. It was very strange. I did not feel the ground under my feet. And I realized I was not in my body. My body was following me, or I was following my body. My body was to my right, and I could see myself from the corner of my eye, but I couldn't turn to. What a strange feeling. If I had been asked where I was and on which planet, I would have been hard pressed to answer. I continued to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water and went back to the room. I stopped again. All I felt was astonishment. And then all of a sudden, I thought, this is not normal. You should be scared. You must be scared. But the more I repeated this sentence to myself, the more I reacted. Why be afraid? I came back to my bed calmly. I went to bed and went back to sleep. The next morning, when I woke up, I immediately remembered this incident of the night. I got up, a little worried anyway. Everything was back to normal. Someone said to me in a conversation a few days later, there are two energies that govern us, fear and love, and nothing else. These are the only two emotions that accelerate your heartbeat. And then again, it's those same two emotions that influence our decision. We always act out of fear or out of love. That's it. And later, I saw this picture. I have a picture, illustration, and I think you can see it is written on the fingers, love and fear. And I think since then that we cannot exist without fear. Strange coincidence, you will agree? I think that every day, every night, we should examine each of our actions without judgment and ask ourselves this question, did I act out of fear or out of love? And I bet you more than 70% of our actions are due to fear than love. I'm sure we get out of our bodies at night when we are asleep. Because another time, a morning, I was awoken by a violent noise. Leo, my little dog, had barked next to my ear. I jumped from my bed. I felt a pain at the top of my head, as if I had a hole on the top of my head. And I remember this pain persisted all day long. It was not an headache. I had the impression of a hole or having a nail in the skull. And later I learned, and I do not know if it is true, we leave our body during the night and we come back by the top of our head. And I immediately remember this morning when I learned that. The third experience, when I think about it again, I still can't believe it. I still can't believe it. I said that I had the strange feeling of being out of time when I entered the Morvan Park area. And today, I think there is a link between these events and this place. Several times, I've had problems with objects that disappeared, and some of them reappeared. Others have disappeared forever, like this piece of paper. One morning, before I left work, I couldn't find my glasses. I always put them in the same place, but that day, they were not there. I looked for them in vain, and I was forced to go to work without them. After a difficult morning because I had to work with my nose on the screen, I went home for lunch. I opened the door, and there, stupor, my glasses were on the table in their usual place. I was so happy and relieved to find them that I quickly attributed this incident to distraction without believing too much, but I had no other explanation. But then other incidents happened at my workplace. My colleague gave me a nice pen. We were sitting across from each other. We were talking and I had taken the pen out of the box for 2 or 3 minutes when I realized it was missing. My colleague and me, we both looked for it. We checked the desk. We looked under the desk. We emptied the trash. We never saw that pen again. Incredible. But sometime later, an even more surprising incident occurred. I wanted to print several documents, including a drawing in a large format. I found all my documents on the printer, but no drawing. Despite several attempts, it was impossible to print this drawing. It was late. It was not an emergency, so I went home. The next morning, when I arrived at the office, the first thing I saw was a drawing on the printer. At this moment, I thought that the day before there had been a simple computer bug without asking me any more questions. This kind of bug happened quite often. I took the drawing. I was holding it by hand. I was on my way to my office in the same room when my colleagues arrived. We talked for a couple of minutes, and then I sat in my seat. And then I realized I was not holding the drawing. I started looking for it in the room. I couldn't see it. I asked my colleague, but where is the drawing I held in my hand? And they perfectly remembered that I held it. We searched the whole room. We looked in the garbage. The drawing was never found. My colleague and I have been very disturbed by this story. We have been talking about it all day. We'll never know what happened this day. When we talk about the presence of entities in a house, we often talk about called negative entities. Well, I can say benevolent entities exist in my previous home at least. One day, when I came back home, I dropped a shopping bag on a chair nearby the front door. It was late, I was tired, and I thought I'd put it all away the next day. The next day, I forgot about the bag. For lunchtime, I decided to cook a sausage in a pan of water. I turned on the gas, and while waiting for the water to boil, I settled in front of my computer. I don't know how long it took, but suddenly I heard a big noise, and I realized that the shopping bag had fallen from the chair, and probably everything was scattered. I didn't get up from my seat right away. I had something to finish, and after a few minutes, the fire alarm went off. I jumped out of my chair and ran to the kitchen. Ah, yes, the pan was smoking. There was no more water and the sausage was shared. After I cleaned up, I came back to the entrance hall and I wondered, why did this bag fall? There was no reason. It was on the chair the day before. I noticed something very strange, the strange arrangement of the objects. They were not scattered, they were aligned. It looked like the wall was charting a path to the kitchen. Wow! And at this moment I got it. They had tried to warn me. If I had reacted at the first alarm, I would have had to go to the frame of the kitchen door and I would have seen the pan. But sometimes later, perhaps several weeks later, I decided once again to cook a sausage. And I went back to my office after I turned on the gas. And the rest, you can guess. I forgot again. I was focused on my work when suddenly the phone rang. I got up and went to the kitchen. I didn't look at the stove. As I grabbed the phone, I noticed that the screen was not showing anything. It was not normal. I picked up the phone. There was no one on the phone and no tone. So I put the phone down and I turned around, and there I saw smoke, but not as much as last time. I could save the sausages day, and I understood I'm probably not alone in this house. So I said, thank you, whoever you are. I'm not alone. At this time, I was a student at the naturopathic schools where I currently work. And that day, I was one of the exhibitors at a wellness show. I was asked to do sit-down massage sessions for visitors who wanted to. After performing 2 massage sessions, the third person moved into the massage chair, a woman. I started the session, but after a few minutes, I started to have a stomachache. Then the pain intensified, but I decided to complete the protocol, squeezing my teeth. Then the lady stood up with a very large smile and told me that she enjoyed the session very much. But me, I felt very bad. In a brief verbal exchange, she told me that her husband has stomach cancer. Wow. No comment. I apologized to the people who were waiting for their turn, and I ran to the ladies' room. I had terrible nausea, and finally something came out. I had foggy eyes, but I could see the shape of a black ball, something like that, falling off. I still can't say today what it could be. Then, in front of the mirror, I couldn't look up beyond a certain level. I was dizzy, and I was trying to remember what I had eaten. Surprised not to see me coming back, the organizers of the show came to see what was happening. They were about to call emergency medical services when Castor, one of my teachers, geobiologist and magnetizer, Castor arrived in town. He got everyone out and said, "But what did you do? A huge entity is clinging to you." If I hadn't been so bad, I think I'd have burst out of laughing. I didn't believe in that kind of thing. But now I know I was wrong. Castor was in front of me, but I still couldn't look up to this face. I couldn't open the eyes. And Castor put his hand on the top of my head, and I understood that he was manipulating a pendulum. I don't know if you watched the movie Alien, but a few minutes later, I felt something spilling off my face. Wow! What a strange sensation! I couldn't believe it. I obviously felt a great relief, but I was emptied. I did not have any more energy. I felt like a rag doll. I was well reprimanded by Castor. "Where are your laboratories?" It's true. I had forgotten the protective stones. So that's true too. And then I was lucky after that. I was at the wellness show. The exhibitors all take care of me. And finally, I left full of pep. And later, a friend offered me a huge laboratory. But I haven't given messages since, except when I see someone suffering or someone close to me. But I can assure you that I respect precautions to the letter now. 3 years ago, I decided to have a roommate, and Jessica arrived at home. Jessica was very nice, but also a very special person. When she arrived, she told me she had a gift to see the deceased, but not only, entities too. Upon her arrival, several strange events took place in the house. To name a few, the sound of her raised line woke me up very early in the morning. I got up quickly, but I noticed it was always closed. When I talked about that to Jessica, she did not react. She simply said, "Yes, I heard." She was used to this kind of event, but not me. One morning, we were taking our breakfast when Jessica told me, "Huh, I see a military behind the glass door. He's watching us." Of course, I did not see anything, but helped by the description of the uniform, we tried to find the time of that uniform. It was not recent, 18th century. I do not know if it was due to the presence of Jessica, but one night, in the middle of the night, I got up because I needed to drink a glass of water. When I came into the kitchen without turning the light, I saw clearly the shadow of a child running in front of the window door, not outside, but inside. It was the very first time I saw such a thing. And the incidents continued. There is another problem with the field, too. One evening I saw Leo, my little dog, leap into the air with a big blue electric arc under his belly. I also saw Leo jump on the terrace as if he had just been kicked. Then the idea to take some pictures of the field with my telephone by night. And I can say there is a great activity on the field because my telephone showed strange things like big orbs and things I cannot describe. One of these pictures is particularly disturbing. You could see the face of a woman. I saw, just before taking photo, a shadow running on the field. This black shadow seemed to chase someone, a white shape. I recently learned that this field is the site of an old cemetery, and moreover, we see many forms of rectangles. No comment. The most important event happened this evening when Jessica told me looking through the window door, oh my God, there was something out with red eye on the field. But me, I couldn't see anything. In the middle of the night, she woke me up, telling me, "Did you hear the big noise in the kitchen?" I was sleeping a deep sleep and I didn't hear anything. When we came into the kitchen before turning the light, she said, "He's in." What? It's the demon with red eyes I saw early in the evening. And as I expected, there was nothing. But Jessica seemed scared. It was the first time I saw her so scared. She opened the large closets of the kitchen, and finally we saw that a shelf had fallen. I didn't understand how, because shelves and elements for supporting are made of very strong wood. Jessica went to her bedroom and came back with a rosary, and she asked me to leave the room and close the door. I was waiting in the corridor. I heard some noises with the chairs. Then she opened the door and told me, "I cannot make him go away." I was very tired and I was decided to finish with this because all I wanted is returning to sleep. And I loudly said, "Go away now. Go back where you came from." Jessica looked at me very surprised. "How did you do that? He's gone." I can't say if there is a relation with our encounter a few days later with the dogman. And since Jessica left the house, has become quieter, or almost there's always something wrong concerning Leo, my little dog. I can see he does not like to live in this house. I'm trying to understand why, and I think that there is still a problem. I keep taking pictures at night, and 3 days ago, I felt Leo nervous again. Around midnight, I went out into the field and started taking pictures with my phone. At the first shot, a surprise awaited me. A light around me. It passed in front of, then behind, and then came back in front. A strong light source. It was impressive. I didn't feel scared. I sent the photos to Jessica, and she replied that she saw through this light a protective soul, or something like that. I pointed out her the presence of faces on the pictures, and she told me she saw them too. She told me that Leo sees them as well, and probably better than we do. These faces are rather disturbing. They are not obvious to see. Then I wanted to enlarge part of one of the photo, and then, surprise, I see animal heads all looking at Leo. Other people have confirmed the same to me. I regularly take pictures with orbs, lights, strange shapes on the field. One of the pictures showed a very large orb behind the fence. This night I was working on my computer when I had the sensation to be observed through the glass door. So I stand up and I decided to take a picture. The picture was black, but when I enlightened the photo with the software, this big orb appeared. If you search for the definition of the word orbs on Wikipedia, you will find something like it's just dust or water droplets. I submit that it is not true for all, and I have very good reasons to say that. I am used to take pictures on the field, but also in the woods. When I look the screen of my photo device, sometimes I see, before pressing the button, orbs, lights, and sometimes, no, I discover them after. And one day, as I wanted to take a picture of the woods, a purple orb arrived just in front of the lens. It seems to look at me and above all play with me. This orb pass, stop in front of the lens, go away and come back. Each time I was about to press the button, it came back. And at the end, I tried to picture of him, but it was impossible. He was moving very quickly. I saw this orb several days in a row, always at the same place. And another day, I saw an orb go out behind a firm. He stopped 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds, as if he had noticed my presence, and he go away. Another time, I saw on the screen 2 big orbs coming very quickly in my direction. So, I think these things are alive and intelligent. There is another world around us. I'm sure. An invisible world.
If you've had a paranormal experience and would like to be a guest on the show, please contact us by going to myparax.com. That's myparaex.com. Thanks for listening.